Have you heard this term yet? Disparate impact. You've probably heard the terminology thrown around, and you may just be scratching your head thinking, well, what is that? I know I'm supposed to be doing something with it as it relates to criminal background checks. Well, let me tell you what it is very, very simply. And it all started off in the wonderful state of Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. Go Texas. These things start off there. And in Texas, here's the story. Here's what happened. See, there's a gentleman, a Hispanic gentleman, and he was trying to rent a property. And he was a little bit older. I don't know what he was. We'll call him 50 years old. So he's trying to rent a property, and he keeps applying at these multifamily complexes to rent a property. And the multifamily complexes keep denying his application based upon the fact that he had a marijuana conviction when he was like 18 years old. But since then, he's been clean. No arrest, no conviction, good credit. Everything's great about the guy other than the fact that he had a marijuana conviction at age 18, and he couldn't rent a property. Well, HUD started getting word of this, and HUD started looking into this, and HUD said, this may be the concept of disparate impact. Disparate impact means this. It's like, think of it as secondary discrimination. You're not outwardly discriminating, but that apartment complex was not saying, no, we will not rent to you because you're Hispanic. They weren't saying that, but they were saying, if you have a criminal conviction, we will not rent to you. So HUD came in, and here's what HUD said. HUD said, you know what? The Hispanic community has a higher arrest rate than does the non-Hispanic community. Therefore, if you are saying we will not rent to anybody who has an arrest record, that may be secondary discrimination. It's disparate impact, and we believe disparate impact is illegal. So Texas fought it, the apartment complex fought it. This went all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States of America not too long ago. The U.S. Supreme Court, by a 5-4 ruling, voted that disparate impact is legal to continue to enforce. That means secondary discrimination can be recognized as actual discrimination by the U.S. Supreme Court. So if you don't like it, tough, deal with it, all right? This is just the laws we live in. Here's how it relates to what we're doing every day is in criminal background checks. So what that means is, and this was HUD guidance. So HUD came out with guidance saying, hey, disparate impact is real, property management world, you better take it into account in your criminal background checks. Well, suddenly the property management world's like, what do you mean take it into account? What am I supposed to do? I mean, does this mean I have to allow criminals? Can I say no? What do I do? What do I do? So HUD gave us a little more guidance, and they gave us 3 concepts to take into account under this concept of disparate impact. And here's what HUD said we want you to do as your guidance. Number 1, we want you to take into consideration the nature of the crime. Was it violent or was it nonviolent? Let's go back to our example. Let's look at our guy in Texas, 40 years old, had a marijuana possession at age 18. Should we have taken, if he applies for you, should you take into account the nature of his crime? It was a marijuana conviction. I live in Colorado. In Colorado, marijuana convictions are celebrated. The guy'd be a hero because he was brave enough to go buy his marijuana. Everybody gets their marijuana, right? So the nature of the crime, take that into account. Secondary, the severity of the crime. Was it a felony? Was it a misdemeanor? How severe really was the crime? HUD wants you to see that. HUD wants you to take that into account. And third thing HUD wants you to look at is this. How long ago the crime was committed? Was it yesterday? Was it 40 years ago? But HUD says, you know what? Use some common sense in this whole thing. Let me tell you how this played out for us not too long ago. Now we did this before all the disparate impact was in place. See, we have right now in one of our properties a registered sex offender as a tenant. We do. We have a registered sex offender. Now, we also have as a policy, no registered sex offenders can be approved. It's an automatic decline. But a while back, my director of leasing came into my office and said, Mark, I've got an application here I want you to take a look at. This individual checked the box for, yes, I'm a registered sex offender. And I said, okay, well, don't we decline registered sex offenders? Isn't that an automatic decline? She said, yeah, it is, but look at this letter. And the individual had written a letter explaining his conviction and the reason he is a registered sex offender. And at the end of the story, it was this. The guy was arrested for urinating in public within 100 yards or something like that of a school. So he urinated, and it was many years ago. So he urinated within 100 yards of a school. He was arrested, charged with a sex offense, and is a registered sex offender today. Now, I know in my mind, the registered sex offender stuff went off the rails and they started doing that kind of stuff. But that's the reality of it is. And we verified it. We got the police report. We got the whole thing. We verified the whole thing. So we looked at it and I said, well, other than that, how does the guy check out? And she said, great. Everything else checks out about him. Great. But he's a registered sex offender. In the letter he wrote, it broke my heart because he was saying, nobody will rent to me. It's hard to get a job. I'm barely surviving here because I'm a registered sex offender for this stuff. I said, absolutely. Let the guy in. This is crazy. He doesn't pose any danger to society or any of our tenants. Let him in the property. And he is. He's in the property now. And then he wrote us this beautiful thank you letter of, gosh, you've helped me out. This is so amazing. I so appreciate that. But that's what HUD wants to see. They want to see you bring some common sense into your criminal background screening. That's it. You don't need to freak out about this. Don't worry too much about, I'm going to discriminate for this or not for that. Just bring some common sense into the whole thing. Look at the specifics when appropriate on your criminal background screening. That's all you need to know about disparate impact. That'll keep you out of trouble with HUD. If I said something that your attorney disagrees with, by the way, they're probably wrong, but still do what your attorney says, not me. But follow these common sense rules. HUD will be happy with you, and you'll be doing a better job for your residents.